one more go at trying to convince people what a vote of no confidence is, because there's a video going viral around the internet with hundreds of thousands of views that's misleading the people of Australia. And I just want to tell you some basic facts. There's only two ways to vote, right? Two ways to cast it. You could either invalidate your vote or make it informal, and that means it's not counted, or you can cast a formal vote and make sure your vote is counted. How you do that is up to you. If you want a vote of no confidence in the Labor and Liberal Party, you put them last, regardless of who's above them. It doesn't matter, because they rely on two things. They want to see a primary vote, and they want the money from that primary vote, which is nearly $3 a vote. So if you put a minor player or somebody else above them and put Labor and Liberal last, you reward someone else with some money and someone that's probably digging in their own pockets, okay? But that's your choice of how to vote. Let me just give you some facts and figures from 2016. Over the last few years, informal voting has risen to around 5%, just over 5% in Australian elections. That means that 5% of votes are not counted because they haven't filled the ballot paper in properly. What you're being told by other people on the internet is to put black text lines through your vote. That makes your vote join the informal votes, okay? It will not be counted. The government won't see the message you write on there. It'll make no difference to your vote at all. You have not voted. If you don't want your vote to count, yes, you can do that. But your vote will not count for anyone. It doesn't matter how many people do that, you will not sack the government, okay? The only way you can sack this government, unless you want to take to the streets and protest about the rubbish we're going through and the dodgy electoral system that we have to deal with, is to put them last, because then someone else gets in. Simple as that. Can we get enough people to kick them out that way? I do not think so. I'd like to dream that we could. Now let's look at some facts and figures. The last federal election, the Liberal Party got 28% of the primary vote. That means that 28% of Australians put a number one in the box next to Liberal and then voted down the line, okay? Maybe not, but that's the basis of what that tells us. They may have had two minors above them and then Liberal were over Labor and it ends up with them. But the primary vote on the first count for Liberal was 28%. The primary vote for Labor was 34%, all right? 34%. And as you know, Liberal got in because preference deals, two-party counting, all sorts of dodgy stuff. The swing away from the major parties was about 34, but if you count it up, it's 38%. So 1 in 3 people wanted Labor, 1 in 3 people wanted Liberal, and 1 in 3 people can't stand either, okay? Can't stand either. And that was watered down because the majority is still, they have a two-party counting system. I've talked about this before. And so it ended up with a major party running the country, okay? In the upper house, which is the Senate, that's the House of Review, that is where you do not have to vote for Labor or Liberal. And if you mark as many boxes as you like, or at least 11 or 12, whatever amount of senators in your particular state, and you leave Labor and Liberal off, you will put independent people with independent views, generally closely representing you more so than a political machinery like the major parties, into power. And that means that if the Labor or Liberal take control of the country, as is usually the case, anything they want to do has got to pass through the Senate, and then you can block them there. So if you want to do any damage to the major parties, you're sick of it, leave them off your vote in the Senate. If you go by this new video running around, what you do is this. You take some people from that 34 to 38% that have had enough, and you tell them to join the informal queue. It doesn't make any difference to the government. The percentage of the government's Labor and Liberals votes will actually rise in as a percentage if people that hate them start invalidating their votes, okay? Putting a black line through means your vote doesn't count. It doesn't sack the government. It means your vote doesn't count. I understand some people don't want to vote for the majors. Fine. Put a black text mark through there. But if you think that's going to sack the government, that is not the case. If you don't believe what I'm telling you after 20 years experience, you can speak to anybody with any experience in electoral law, or you can ring the Australian Electoral Commission yourself and ask them, and they will tell you outrightly, by putting text lines through your vote, It does not count, okay? What we need to see if we want to change this country and put the fear of God into the major parties is the amount of others. In other words, voting for other people besides the major parties. We want that to rise. In fact, we want that 5% of people that are casting informal votes that are invalid, to start actually voting for someone besides the majors, because you could end up with a result where Libs get 20-odd%, Labor get 20-odd%, and 30 or 40% plus goes to minor players, okay? Then the funding that you're covering out of your tax dollar, the $2.78 or whatever it may be this year, will go to a minor player. Now, that minor player may not be perfect, but what it does set an example is that I've run, okay? It's tough as hell. And I'll tell you about that. If I want to run for the Senate this year, okay, it's going to cost me $2,000 to get my name below the line where no one votes. I want my name above the line, so I'm going to have to run with a running mate. So there's two people. That's $4,000. Then I have a blank box above the line. So somehow I've got to educate over 1 million voters in South Australia that the blank box above the line on the Senate ballot paper is for me, and I can't afford that. So democracy is a bit broken, but right now you've got two choices. You have two choices. You can invalidate your throw it in the bin. You can continue to vote for Labor and Liberal, which means you like the way the country's going and what's happening to pensioners and what's happening to our veterans and everything else. You like that, so you vote for them. If you don't like the major parties and you want to make a difference, you put the minor players above them. It's highly likely with this rigged system that those minor players still may not get in, and you'll still end up with a Labor or Liberal government. But you will send them a clear bloody message. You'll take money off them. You'll give that money to people that might reinvest it next year and do a better job next election, and you send a clear message. In the Senate, if you leave them off, you're going to end up with a whole heap of people in the Senate that will work together as a block, I will think you'll find, and negotiate for a better deal for us, like stop sending money offshore when our own people need it, and whatever. Look, you know what the problems are. I'm only here to tell you, if you want to use your power to send a clear message to the Parliament, that's how it's done. It's not done by invalidating and throwing your vote away. Thank you. And please share this, because I want people to know the absolute truth. And anyone that denies what I'm telling you is correct can go to the Electoral Commission, they can read the Electoral Act, they can look online, they can look at results. This is what happens. Thank you.